That's right, it's finally here. This is the palette. In case you haven't seen it, I'm sure you all have. Basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna jump right into a look. I'm not a guy that's really into swatches. I like swatch watches. Now, I have already gone in and lightly set my brow bone with the shade Glucose, and then realized that I wasn't actually filming, so we've already started there. Next, I'm gonna go in with the shade Tongue Pop on a Morphe M433. And yeah, just gonna go in and build up my transition. And I know that people were like, really waiting for like swatches and that kind of first look at a palette. But I mean, honestly, for me, that's just not something that I really care about too much. I care more about how the actual palette performs and how the colors blend out, how saturated they are. I'm excited to get in there and actually create a look with the palette. Now, just for the sake of seeing how much we can build up Tongue Pop, and just kind of get that into the socket there, just to see how much we can build that up. Initially, to look at it, you might just see a lot of like pinks and reds, but I feel like the same could have been said about the Modern Renaissance palette. But once you really got in there and started playing around with it, you really could create like a lot of different looks with that palette. And I think that this one is definitely a lot like that. So did any of you guys get this palette yet? I know that, it sold out really fast. It sold out within like, what, 3 minutes? I'm gonna go in next with the color Cherry Soda on the same M433. Yeah, last year when the Androgyny palette came out, I was kind of prepared as far as ordering that palette. And what I did was, I worked that day, and all of the Jeffree Star stuff comes out on a Saturday. And since it's coming out at 10 a.m. Pacific time, that's 1 o'clock Eastern time, which puts it right in the middle of my workday. My 1 o'clock appointment came in, and I had my phone ready. I had all my information. I had my credit card number. I had everything written down for him. He sat down in my chair, and I was like, all right, here's the deal. You're gonna sit down in my chair and you are gonna order the Androgyny palette for me on my phone while I cut your hair. And he was totally down, no problem. And I don't think that palette sold out. And if it did, I think it probably took a couple days for it to happen. But again, you just never know how that's gonna work out with a new launch. So what happened this time around was I had a client. I finished her a few minutes early. It was 12:57. It was like 3 minutes till. I was walking down the hallway with my client, towards the front of the salon. I pulled my phone out of my pocket just to see, is it maybe up a few minutes early? I mean, I know this thing is going on sale in 3 minutes, I just wanted to take a chance and see. So I clicked on the blood sugar palette, and it was totally available to buy. So I put 2 of them in my cart. So by the time that I went ahead and added my credit card info and all that, and actually purchased the palette, by the time I'm done, I get a message from my friend Justine, and she's like upset because it had already sold out, and I'm like, really? I just ordered 2 of them. And by the time that I ordered it, it was already completely sold out. And then I'm gonna go ahead and smoke out my lower lash line with that color. And now before I go in with the really deeper shades, I want to get a little bit more powder right down here. Now so far there's actually no fallout at all, but I have been really careful about going in super easy and not building up too much product too quick. The color that I was most excited about in this palette, I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right into that now, is this shade down here called Fresh Meat. And that was just I barely pressed that brush into the pan. I barely picked any up, and that's how much color payoff we're getting already. Like already. This is the color that I came here for, and I love it. And I love that I'm able to get like that much saturation with that color with like a fluffier brush, you know what I mean? Like I'm not even using a packing brush for this, and it's already like really intense. I'm gonna take this R38 and just kind of start to blend out the edge of that a little bit into the cherry soda and the tongue pop that I already have kind of laid down in that area. Now, I think this look that I'm creating today is gonna be a case of, you know, did I really need to add all of those colors? Probably not. Could I have skipped cherry soda up here? Probably. I actually didn't even look to see which ones of these shades were the pressed pigments and which ones of them were eyeshadows, but as long as they're saturated, as long as they're pigmented, and as long as they blend out really well, I don't care what you call them. And then I'm taking just a tiny bit more of tongue pop on this R38 brush, just to kind of blend out the edge and kind of add a little bit more of that transition shade back into this look, because I feel like it kind of got lost a little bit. Now on a Morphe M514, which is a perfect dupe for the MAC 221, I'm gonna work that into the lower lash line. I'm actually really excited about this brush because, you know, MAC changed their brushes, and you know, their old brushes sold really, really quick, and I was not able to get my hands on another 221 brush. So when I found this one, I snatched it up really quick, and it was actually the last one that they even had at Ulta. I'm glad that they had it because I really wanted to try it out and compare it to the 221, and it's like, it's an exact dupe. It's like fucking perfect. I'm gonna go into Extraction, which actually is probably very similar to like what Fresh Meat is, but I just want to play around with that color too. I think this one might be like a tiny bit more purple, where Fresh Meat is just a little bit more red toned. Wow, this mirror in here is actually really big. Why am I not using this? I'm not gonna lie, I think I might even like this M514 better than the MAC 221. Sorry, MAC. People have got you beat out on some brushes. It's true. It's really true. And there's really not, there's barely any fallout. Like, this is probably the least messy eyeshadow I've used in a long time. There's like definitely kick up in the pan, but like once you tap off your brush and start blending out the colors, like the colors pretty much stay where you put them. Like there's barely any fallout. We're gonna go into the darkest shade, Coma, on a Morphe E36. I'm gonna dip into Coma on my M514. Don't wanna go too high in the crease with that. Keep that right in there. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I would use like red lipstick and kind of smear that around my eyes, and then take black eyeliner and kind of smear that in close to the lash line and kind of blend those two colors together just to create like a similar effect to what I'm doing here today. I'm gonna go in with the shade Blood Sugar. I mean, obviously the palette is called Blood Sugar. Let's go ahead and use its namesake today. This is one of the shader brushes from the Morphe vegan brush set. It actually does give some shimmer payoff on its own without the help of a setting spray or a glitter primer, so that's cool. That's rare, actually, is what that is. I can't even resist. I have to go in with Donor on that same brush and just kind of pop that in the middle just to see what that does. Yeah, that didn't do that much. And I normally wouldn't use this kind of color without using a glitter primer or some kind of adhesive or setting spray anyway. So I'm gonna go in with my finger just to see if applying it dry with a finger makes a difference. Oh, and that actually really does. So yeah, Donor is definitely a finger shadow, or definitely one. I mean, obviously, I'm not even using any kind of a primer. I'm not using a setting spray. Just pressing this down over top of a bunch of layers of eyeshadow, and it is working out really, really well. I mean, how often does that happen? I'm gonna take the R38 that I was using to blend out my transition, and I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of blend out underneath a little bit more. So for the waterline, you know exactly what we're doing today. We're doing Night Moth. I don't even need to say this. This palette and this selection of colors just lends itself to this. So we are gonna go ahead and, yeah, that color is like perfect. So definitely, if you're gonna get this palette, get Night Moth lip pencil from MAC to go with it, because they really go hand in hand. And since I'm really curious about this shade Sweetener, I'm gonna go ahead and take that on a MAC 219 and just kind of hit my inner corner with that color. And I figured that one would be really good for an inner corner highlight. That might even really be good for like a blush or like a blush topper too. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much gonna be it for my first look with this palette. So let me get some mascara on really quick and I'll be back with the final look. All right, guys, so my inner 16-year-old goth kid is totally in love with this palette. My 38-year-old hair metal self is totally in love with it as well. This look is definitely not for everyone. I don't think this palette is really for everyone either. This palette is definitely for me. This palette is definitely for anybody who really likes to put looks together that are really outside of the box. I think you can definitely create some softer looks with this palette, but I think overall, this is gonna be a palette that's more for really kind of intense looks or for looks that are just a little bit different. Before I finish this video, I do wanna go in with a Morphe M510 and dip into the shade Candy Floss and just see what that looks like as a highlighter. As far as like a shimmery pink goes, I'm usually not like a huge fan of that as like eyeshadow, but I do like that as a highlighter. And yeah, I think that shade actually works really well as a highlight shade. Definitely bear with me because over the next few looks, I'm really gonna be going in heavy with this palette. So if that's not your thing, if you're not a Jeffree Star fan, or if you're just not really a fan of these kind of colors in eyeshadows, then you might want to skip my next few videos because that's what we're going to be doing. But if you'd like to see what other kind of looks I create with this palette, and definitely incorporating this with some other shades from other palettes, then watch my next few videos. And if you like this video and if you like this look, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscription button down below. Make sure to tell all your friends about it so they know to watch, and I'll see you guys on the next one.